Funny.
Should be live.
One of them.
All right, man.
All right, people. Just wait. Let's just make sure that we're live. Yeah.
Is there a record button?
Yeah. We're on. It's just a 6-second delay.
Okay.
Okay. Folks can't hear me. I see they're commenting. Hey, everybody. Flipside CT here. Thank you so much, you guys and gals and rock and rollers. Down below, right here, this dude is Curt Angeledes.
Hi,
Curt
all.
Kurt's in Oregon right now, but let me lay out a few things here. Again, thank you all. I don't know who's in here. I'm not going to be looking at comments that much. If I look this way, that means I'm looking at our live stream, just making sure I'm up. We will have questions and answers at the end. I'm looking. I should be looking here. We'll have questions and answers at the end. Um, so you guys will be able to, I will look at the comments then and we'll talk. And there's some housekeeping, Flipside channel here, Flipside CT. You know me if you're here. Some of you don't. My channel is about rock and roll, about music. It's all about the turn on. I've been doing this about 7 years. I collect vinyl records. I start out with what's called the vinyl community. That's people all over the world who love rock and roll and collect music and vinyl records. Could be CDs. Anyway, um, that's how I started. Um, Stones were always my passion. And growing up outside New York City, um, in New Jersey, about 20 miles out, we loved our rock and roll, and we would go into Manhattan and do what we got to do. But the people I grew up with, the older kids, they're the ones that turned me on, and we just hung out and just listened to rock and roll over and over. And then we got in some bootlegs of Stones, and then we dissected bootlegs. And like many of you, you just sat there and listened to mix every word. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. So um, I'm going to, as I mentioned, be commenting later, getting your questions and giving answers. We're going to have a giveaway, a book giveaway. Um, Curt, I called an audible on this. What we're going to do is I'm going to have like 4 or 5 questions. And the fastest person that knows it and types it, whatever comes up, is going to be a contestant. So we'll have 4 or 5. After that, Curt's going to give you one question, and the person that answers that will get the book. So we'll talk about that later. You may hear or see Marta. Marta is the other better half of Curt. She helped him with this book also, and spent a lot of time with the Stones, and she's a rock and roll gal. Put up with any malfunctions. If you see anything happening with delays or audio problems, we'll figure it out, but bear with us here, okay? And hopefully the quality is good. I'm going to look at my, right now at my comments. Can you tell me if everything is good? Is the quality sound okay? We got a 6-second delay, so I'm going to look. Okay, cool. And my wife is screaming from downstairs. It sounds good. It works good. All right, I got my #1 fan there. The book giveaway I talked about. All right, housekeeping. Intro. Here we go. So, Curt Angeledes. This is about him. This book. Um, Curt doesn't owe me anything. I don't owe Curt anything. We are just rock and rollers just like you, and we have a passion for 3 things: music, photography, rock and roll. What was the third one, Curt?
Travel.
travel. I've been to 25 countries, by the way, so I've done my share,
Good
but
for
not.
you.
I would love to see the Stones in Europe, in London, probably. That would have been my bucket list. So anyway, Curt is 58 years of a music fan, 56 years of attending gigs, 25 tours through the years, 13 countries he's been to, 135 shows, and 47 years of Stones photo shooting. It's a hell of a lot. It's a pretty prime person for rock and roll, and that's why I had to get everybody to see this. This book is about the Stones. These photos are just amazing and something that to me it's priceless to have. I just keep on turning pages and pages and watching it. It goes through 75 to 2017. Okay, I'll talk more about that. Um, it's all about capturing the magic shot. Now, Curt will explain to you more techniques or whatever his style, but both of us are photographers. He more than I, but I would do weddings. I would do videos of bar mitzvahs. I would do documentaries, and I had my own business, and I would also do a lot of things. That was my background. But when I did the weddings more, the bride and groom would tell me, "Do you want to sit down and have some dinner? With the photographer and the band?" I said, "Well, if I'm sitting, I'm going to miss a shot. So if you're not focused and if you're not looking for that magical shot, if you're not into what you're doing, it's just not there." And that's what Curt is about. He's into finding that shot. That's what it's about. And he'll talk about the music is flying over his head, and it's more of him, what he's got to do to capture that shot. Right? Am I right, Curt?
Yeah, I would have to say so, because I
Yeah.
can't allow the crowd or the performance to distract me.
Right.
I've got to
Right.
arrive at a spot where the focal length agrees with the subject matter,
Yeah.
and I can get reasonable exposures and such like that. So, yeah, I have to concentrate on what I'm doing more so than all of what is attendant upon a rock and roll show. To
Right.
me, it's a matter of work. It's not a matter of getting entertained. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't hear the music, but in my estimation, it's the music that drives the shutter button.
Yeah. There you go. That little black box, right, that you're looking at. And
You got it.
that's I mention this because you will see the intensity. I mean, these are, whether you see Rolling Stone magazine, whether you see Cream magazine, Hit Paraders, all those magazines that are out there, folks. This is up there with it. This is great stuff, and it's 276 photos. I'll talk about how you get this book later, but I'm still going into this. You talked a lot. There's several stories. There's a couple pages of stories in here, um, and you talk about Rita, uh, the blind angel, and I want you to mention that story, which is just amazing. We talk about Keith, the wink, um, and you also talk about connections. You had to make connections, and also you had to get from gig to gig, and you talk about that also. What you had to do to make money. Um, you had to get information, and you had to get Stone's detail information, like rocks off. It's only rock and roll. So you credit them also in your book here, ticket agencies. And on the front cover, this is your shot from the Gator Bowl, Florida in
Yes.
'75. This is just one. I mean, this just says it all to me. This is just phenomenal. And on the back, I believe this is a newer shot. I have it written down.
Yeah, that
Uh,
was from Paris in 2017.
Paris 2017 of Charlie.
Yes.
And you started the tour of Americas in '75 with your professional, and you first picture, which we're going to get through later, is the Boston Garden in '75. And then you end with the No Filter Tour in 2017 in France. So what I want to do right now is, again, I want the people to know and feel just how cool you are and that you got a lot to offer. And right now, I would like to show your website, which is Chief Moons Gallery. And that's chief-moons, apostrophe S, gallery.com. And in here, you're not just the Stones guy, of course. They're the primary, but you have other bands that you have taken pictures with. I'm going to let you now jump in and walk us through your website first and let us know a little bit about this.
Okay, well, this page here goes through the different artists that I photographed over the years. It's an alphabetical list that runs from, well, I believe beyond the Rolling Stones. It goes from Aerosmith down to Frank Zappa. There's some Muddy Waters in there, some Bob Dylan, let's see, Chuck Berry, Beach Boys. I've gotten a chance to meet some of these people. I hung out with the Beach Boys for a spell. Dennis Wilson favored the photographs I had of him, and that produced an interesting arrangement. Muddy Waters was a friendly guy to see and shoot. Along the way, I met B.B. King, that is tour bus one time, and he autographed one of the shots I had of him. A little bit of a story with that. One time he played at the Blue Note in New York. I went in for 20 minutes on the first show, shot a couple of rolls of film, walked across the street, processed the film, and put out some 11x14s while he was doing the rest of his set. In between, on the set changeover, I got back into the club because I'd given a print to the guy at the front door, and I walked into the club and I gave one to B.B. King right before they went back on. And the bit about that was that he looked at the picture, he looked at the photograph, the print. It was 11x14, non-bordered, a full bleed print. And he looked down at what he was wearing, and he said, "Young man, how did you do that?" Just a little process time. Now, that leads into a thought like this, that a lot of what I've done has been about process. Process. You've got to process film. You've got to process prints. You got to process orders. And there's information that you've got to be aware of and process all the time. Yeah, I might be well aware of when the Stones are going to play in advance, but then I got to sit down and I got to plot a track of which ones I might want to go to and how to go about that. So there's a lot of process.
So some of these don't have links to see pictures. Are you getting
That's
to
right.
that?
I haven't. Those are all bits I haven't scanned yet.
Okay.
It takes quite a while. Put it this way. It took me exactly 3.5 years and about 16 hours a day or so, sometimes 20, 7 days a week at that, merely to scan and process the Rolling Stones collection that I've got. It would take probably 10 years to go through the same process with the rest of what's on that list.
I can imagine. Yeah. Well, you got some work to do, my friend.
Yeah, there's some folks that say that.
Yeah. Okay. So where am I? Let me just go to the main. I just wanted to, again. So here on this main page, we talk about Go for Broke, the book that we're going to talk about. It shows links here where you can get it. Hardcover, paperback, and there is ebooks, and then ebooks also correct. We have a Facebook, we got Pinterest, Tumblr, we have all these other things to check you out and look.
Yeah, those are all links to social media.
Okay. And
yeah, my social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that. There's different images each place.
So what is Chief Moons about? How did you get that?
Well, way back about 25, 26 years ago, I became aware of what the internet was doing, what it could do. Up until 1996, I didn't think much of computers, the internet. It wasn't that I didn't know how to use them and all. I could build them. I could do the electronics for them. I'd spent time in college doing math for electronics and all this other sort of stuff. I'd spent a year working for an internet service provider as a volunteer, tearing down equipment and putting it back together and all. And then I figured, okay, maybe I ought to have a website. So that meant I started very, very basically with a little easy photo scanner that scanned at 100 dpi. I did a set of prints, and that's what became the website. And then I got visitors. Then I learned about keywords and meta tags and things like that. And I treated each page on the site with proper references. And I noticed that after a little while, if you look for Rolling Stones photographs on the internet, you came across my pages for the first 5 pages. And it didn't matter the search engine. And things changed. Now you got 100 things. So I appreciate you putting this up so that anybody that's here can go and visit.
So Chief Moon, you got that name from where?
Well, actually, from my grandfather. His name was Richard Arthur Moon. And as it got some Indian blood, I figured that was an appropriate name for a website.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay.
Upstate, Onondaga.
Say that again?
That'd be from upstate New York, Onondaga.
Oh, yes.
One of the 5 nations.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a passion for history and amazed at how many Indian tribes there were throughout this whole country. We could bullshit. And those of you
being 500 tribes there were.
Oh no, it's unbelievable. Okay, so we have your decades here, and we have shows, and I'm just going to click in first one. These aren't all that are in the book. These are some. And again, we're going to go through the electronic version of the book and let you see them a little bit clearer in a bit. But I'm just going through a few random things here to show you what you could see on this website. And people love to see something new. I know when I do my documentaries that folks say, where did you get that picture? Where did you get this picture? And it's a lot of searching, a lot of digging, a lot of asking. People don't realize I got to reach out to people and ask for their permissions. I mean, I've taken a few things I haven't. I try to credit everybody. But the magic thing is finding something that people haven't seen before. And that's what the beauty here is also. Okay, so I think people got the idea here. And again, we're going to talk about your past, your history, how you started, and bring it up to the Stones. And as I'm looking at this type of shots, I see the digital cameras that you transitioned to as we later went. And then we look at the earlier ones. We'll see the more film, the challenge, the graininess, the shots that I love. I think this has more emotion to it and tells a story. But that's me. Okay, where
Interesting
am I?
perspective.
Yeah. And there was one shot I asked you about, and I'll bring it up. And you said, "Oh, that was something, how you got that picture." And I think you know which one. I'll show that one. It was interesting. All right. So again, we have all these shots here, and we're going to bounce here. We got Ronnie. We got a whole mess of things here. Links, contacts. Okay. So what else? We have, let me just bring this over. We also have, where am I? You were in some books, and I want you to mention some books, and I know you have some also. This is a fantastic book. This is one of the books. I'm doing the emotional rescue documentaries now, 1978 to 1980. This is a great source. And Curt is in here. His photos were used. Curt, you want to wing this one? Let us know more about it.
It was sometime in the course of 2016 that a fellow by the name of Rob Chapman was reaching out online looking for people to contribute to his effort in this book. So I went ahead and produced some prints and scanned the prints and sent them off to him. The photographs that I sent to him and the other memorabilia that was used in the book were collected in the course of the month-long New Barbarians tour, which I happen to be able to catch all the dates of. It'll be where I met Rita Bedard early in the morning of April the 23rd, when Keith was having his final hearing up there at the court in Toronto. I'd spent the night before at the Oshawa gig at CNIB, and then got a ride, got a lift into Toronto, hung out all night long, kind of bleary-eyed until morning, and went down to the courthouse very early in the morning before there was anybody there at all. After a while, a few people showed up, and then more people showed up, and then a lady came up to me, an elderly lady, and she had a girl on her arm that was blind. And the lady said to me, "You look like you know where this girl needs to go." I said, "All right, I'll look after her." We had some conversations about the gig the night before, about other shows that we'd each been to. And then at some point, I got, I don't know, itchy minded or whatever, and decided it was time to take a look in the basement because I thought the whole thing would be over by then. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning. So I sort of said to Rita, "Would you watch my things for me while I take a minute out?" I ran down into the basement, and as I arrived at what would have been a pedestrian level of some sort, there was an elevator that just opened up, and there was Keith getting into his car. I handed him a picture that I had of him from a gig in 1978 and said, "Do you mind if I get another?" And he kind of looked at me as if, "Well, with what?" Because I didn't have a camera in evidence. I didn't have one in my hand, but I pulled out this little Instamatic from a inside jacket pocket. And as I was putting the flip flash on, he hopped in the car, and I just pressed the button as soon as everything was organized, and that was the shot that I ended up with. That year, towards the end of the year, I happened to go through a friend, and he set up a meeting with me and Jane Rose at her office in New York. That's when I was able to give Jane proper size print of this one for Keith and his birthday that year. And that's one of the little side things. It's a Rolling Stones tours. This is the only photograph I have of any of them that's off the stage.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I don't have an interest in chasing them personally. I don't want to shoot pictures of them eating food or anything else like that. I go for pictures of them as they perform.
So this is in the book that we're talking about, and there's Rita. That's your picture of Rita, and
Yeah.
she probably held the bag. She didn't keep an eye on it, I'm sure. She probably.
Oh, well, actually, Rita's legally blind. Not total.
Yeah, not total. Right.
She had maybe 15% in one eye, so she could kind of see. Not totally blind, but pretty close to it.
So you also talked about the story in your book, I guess, with how you met Rita and didn't realize who she was, but we'll catch up to that. You are also in this book, which is a book from fans about the Stones and their experiences. And you want to tell us about this a little bit?
That's another one where people were looking for online submissions, and I produced a set of prints and sent off a CD to somebody that I think lived in Philadelphia at the time. She was able to get a hold of the people over there in the Netherlands that were able to produce this, and I contributed a number of photographs for this book as well. Her name was Mary Lou Regan, and her co-producer was Hans Oosterbaan. I've also got a little written story in there, and that would have been in 2002.
Yes, this book was 2002. You could still get this one too. So a lot of fans in here. Anybody who is in the Facebook group Shadoobie, Doug Patash, who runs that, he has stories in here. But this is a fun book too. I'm sure you would back that one up. And there's another one right here that I will show, which is this one.
Yes, that's a Steve Pilkington book. Again, an individual that was looking for stories and memorabilia from the period of time. So I was in communication with him, Mr. Pilkington, and these were the images that I inputted for that book.
Okay, so that's what's in that one. Yep. So you're all over the place. Now here's the one that to me is the kudos, and that's this one.
Indeed.
And that's
the
Bill's
very
book.
First one. Bill Wyman's book, Rolling with the Stones, is the very first one that I had any of my photographs in. And yes, I really like having a presence in that one.
How did you get contacted for this?
Oh boy, there was somebody online at various groups. May have been a post at It's Only Rock and Roll, the website, the discussion board, and I got in touch with him by email. And that was another instance in 2002 where I sent a CD over to England, and they used some of them. They used about 7 things that I sent to them.
Genesis, I think.
Now, are you in this book? This is your buddy James Carnback?
No. I had no idea he was involved in doing that.
Okay.
I was not in touch, so I didn't have any input for that one.
Okay. So let's we'll talk about him and your relation though with that guy. What else do we have? Did I showed?
What about the newest one?
So how about this? Here's another website, right?
Yeah, this is a page on my website, and those are the photographs that are in the Bill book.
Oh, this is in the Go for Broke. Yep, I recognize.
No, it's in Bill's book.
Yeah, there are 2 of them there that are in the Go for Broke book, and 2 of them that are not.
These 2 are not, right? I don't recognize.
The 2 on the bottom are not.
Oh, these 2. Okay, so that gives you an idea. So what I'm building up here, folks, is the credibility and what we're working with here. That Curt is a full-time professional photographer and delivers the goods. How about this?
And there's one other one. There's this one by Richard Houghton called "The Rolling Stones in the 60s: A People's History." I've got some written material in this one. This is a new issue out of 2022.
When you went to see him for the first time.
That was when I went to see him for the first time. My story of that event.
Okay, let's hold that up. But when you look at this, I just gravitate to mixed picture, which is just, he's dancing with Billy. You caught the right moment, the hair flowing. You feel that whole intense moment there of him, how he would dance in 75 with Billy.
As a matter of fact, that particular image graces the cover of the first book I ever produced myself back in 2017. There's only 30 copies of this in existence. And basically, copies went to people that I've met along the way, the people who helped pick the images for it, the band, side people like Carl Denson and Bernard Fowler and them. They got copies of it. It's about 13 band members, and then a handful of other people who were influential in the course of events that ran from 1975 to the present time. This one's called Go for Broke, an introductory retrospective, and it isn't anywhere. This is the last one.
Ooh,
There were only
that-
30 of them.
collector's item.
Well, yeah, that'd
Collector's.
be quite a thing to collect. I don't know how much it would be worth.
I don't know. Uh,
There's only
Um,
30 of them in the world.
that's cool stuff. Um, okay, so I think that's it. Going through some of these images and sort of prepping the stage for you as far as what you got here. Let me show you this. I'm just going to show this because hell, who is that little young fella?
Oh, that looks like Mick Jagger.
That's a little Mick, and somebody.
Indeed. Well, I've
Yeah.
never seen that one.
I know. That's why I'm posting it because I love to see these things. Somebody commented and says he's got the same body, which is just
Well, that's true. Not totally true, but mostly true, I would say. And I'll tell you why. It's a matter of muscle mass that's increased over time.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. A little skinny bean he was. Okay, so bear with me here, folks. So take us back to again, this is about the book, this is about the pictures and turning people on and talking about Stone stories, but take us to where you started. You grew up where? And
I grew up in New York. I grew up in the Bronx, and I guess I'd have to say that I've always had music around me. When I was a little kid, my parents and grandparents listened to music. My grandfather had a radio station on all the time playing country music. My grandmother, she liked Lawrence Welk. My mother liked guys like Perry Como and Dick Martin. I didn't necessarily like all or any of that stuff. I mean, to me, what the hell was the name of that show? Lawrence Welk. I hated it with a purple passion, but I had to sit with it every week. Every week, because we had this thing called Culture Hour. And it was an aspect of Culture Hour. Sometimes it was Hee Haw, which to me was even further around the bend. Okay, so then I got aware of things like Dick Clark. Ed Sullivan started having some decent people on TV when he finally did. But I'm thinking further back than that, because actually there would have been church music. There would have been people on street corners playing different kinds of music, or a cappella singing on the corner, the Italian guys or whatever. The very first people I began to be interested in external to the block or the house were folk musicians. And I'd go down to the East Village, West Village, and what have you, and go see folk artists like Phil Oakes. And along came Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was one of the very first major artists that I liked a great deal. That came about because my sister liked him and listened to it all the time.
So this is 62?
Yeah, we're in there somewhere, about 10, 11 years old. Then along came the Beatles. Everybody liked the Beatles. It seemed they were all right. I liked them as well. And then these other guys came along. The Rolling Stones came along. And to me, that was it. The rest of this stuff could go take a flying hike. That's where I was going to listen to for music. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't like anything else. I like Indian raga. I like harpsichord music, Gregorian chant, even that dull stuff that goes out of the Himalayas. I like that sort of stuff. World music, world beat, reggae, I like it all. I like all that music. But to me, if I'm going to put it on and I'm going to listen to it a lot, it's going to be the Rolling Stones. And like I said, I've been listening to it almost continuously since I first heard them. Now, also initially, we listened to stuff on the radio. This is before I even had friends who might have liked them. They were listening to the Beatles. Okay, getting together to listen to records. For me, that started about 1967. The Satanic Majesties record had just come out, and I met a guy who saw the album cover and said, "What's that?" Well, we wound up as longtime friends. He was a bass player. He was into Frank Zappa. He was into all kinds of guys. But initially, Like everybody else on the block and in my household, he didn't have much appreciation for the Rolling Stones.
Hold your thought.
That's
Hold your
why I
thought,
started-
Kurt. Hold your thought right there. Sergeant Pepper's the
Satanic Majesty.
right. When you heard the two, were you comparing the two? Were you
Nope.
more? No. You.
Nope.
What
In other words, I was taking the next step along the road the Stones were taking. And to me, in my mind, the Beatles had already diverged. In a sense, no, there wasn't a comparison. I could see where comparisons could be made, but I don't think that the Rolling Stones were imitating the Beatles.
Meaning coming out with an album like that.
I think that they came out, each band came out with an album like that because of the times and what was going on individually with people. What would go down when people would party together? What kind of thoughts would result when you had all the different kinds of tastes in a room?
Okay, let's move on. Hopefully, you get that thought back. Where
Get
were
that
you?
thought.
Where were
Where
you?
were you on that, eh?
So we moved on
Okay.
after 67.
So the following year, I started traveling around the United States, hitchhiking about, taking freight trains, buses, whatever, just to see America in a way. I did that for a good number of years, and I found myself in the Army for a space of time. When the Army came to an end, I met an individual. We got together for a spell, and in the midst of that relationship, I changed from being a house painter to being a photographer. In other words, I just took one set of tools and traded them in and got another. The reason for that was that shortly after the birth of my son, I was walking him around in a stroller where we lived in Virginia Beach, and I saw this amazing sunset. Went into the place where I was staying and said, "Does anybody have a camera?" Well, somebody happened to have a little Instamatic. 12 exposures on the roll. And what I did was I took pictures around the clock, at different points of the clock, the 12 points of the clock in a circle. Took the film in to be processed. I got a few prints back and nothing else. I was really curious about it. Wasn't long after that I moved to New York, and the question stayed with me. And anytime I'd see somebody with a camera, I'd ask them about that. Well, finally, one day, a guy was, let's just say, receptive to the idea and had an explanation, had some place to take me where I could talk about it. The place he took me to was 4th Street Gallery down in the village on the east side at 67 East 4th Street, around the corner from where CBGB's ended up. Anyway, there was a fellow by the name of Alex Harsley. Took me into the back room, into the dark room area of his gallery, and showed me what I could already see with my eyes, that there was image area on the film that the 1 hour photo was unable to print. Well, we started talking about darkroom techniques, exposures, and this and that. And he said, what you ought to do is you got a good eye. Get a 35 millimeter and learn. So what I did was I went out and got a 35 millimeter and started learning how to use a camera. F-stops, shutter speeds, film speeds, whether or not you should use a tripod, whether or not you should use additional lighting, what kind of lighting you should use for what kind of an image. So I spent a couple of years taking pictures of just about everything there was around to get an idea of how a camera works. Then in a couple of years after that, in 1975, I learned that the Rolling Stones were going to be touring. I was up late one night processing some film, and the lady on the radio kind of whispered that tickets would be going on sale the following day. Well, needless to say, I dropped everything that I was doing, ran from mid-state into Boston, got into a very short line. I was about 6th person in line. Unfortunately, let's just put it this way, about 8 hours later, when the place was supposed to open up and sell tickets, there had been so much commotion and activity and police activity and all kinds of craziness that closed the location down. In the course of time that I was there, one thing that I did made the difference. I asked to borrow a broom from one of the businesses that was complaining about the garbage that was accumulating, and I swept up every bit of it. This little piece of information and the use of a broom led to a lady telling me what I needed to know in order to get tickets. She told me of an alternate location up in Warwick, Rhode Island, where I and a fellow that I met that had a really fast car went to, and we got our tickets for the Boston shows.
Wow.
I didn't have any arranged tickets after that. 1975, the other 11 gigs were all catch as catch can, as were all the tickets in 1978, and most of them in 1979. It was in 1979 during the Barbarians tour that I got together with the people at Shoko Trucking. And, well, they gave me what amounted to the real itinerary of the tour, which was slightly different than James Carnbach had informed me of. And anyway, as I'd mentioned, I'd been to every show on the Barbarians tour. And when it got out west, after Fort Worth, I made a deal with the stage manager that if I gave him prints from the night before, he'd give me a comp of some kinds for the that day's show, on the condition that I was there when the trucks rolled in.
So you were
So I was
bartering.
able to meet with that condition.
You were bartering here, right?
Yes, bartering. And during one of those barter exchanges, if you want to call it such, I gave him some prints from the night before. And he went in and he came back out and he said, here, give me a bunch more money. He said, Stanley wants 4 more. He wants to send them home to his people. So we did that, and that was handy. A couple nights later, he's in the plane that I'm in. And see, it turns out there's all kinds of tech people on the plane. And it was in that exchange that Keith's guitar tech got a print. And I learned subsequent that he would set that print up on his little altar backstage subsequent to that. I thought that was a fairly interesting bit. So ticket acquisition is one of the important things in the midst of doing this. You've got to know when they're playing, where they're playing, and of course, how you're going to go about getting tickets. For the most part, 70s, 80s, I trusted the matter, knowing that there are always people looking to sell tickets outside. We call them ticket touts. We call them scalpers. A lot of different ways of ending up with tickets. Sometimes the venue has them. If you go to the window early enough in the afternoon or at a certain point in time, there may be tickets available that way. But really, there's always tickets. You never have to pay, well, much more than 5 times the going rate. After, well, let's just say, beginning with the Voodoo Lounge tour, I ended up getting tickets through SLO, through Shelley Lazar's office, which changed things a bit. It's a lot easier to get closer to things that way. It was also in 1975 that I had the interesting experience of selling prints. I started out with a batch of 350 of them, 3.5 by 5, about like this size. These are postcards that I put out in 1994. But 3.5 by 5 prints, single way prints at that, $1 a piece. You're looking at one of the ones that I'd be using in that transaction there. That one's from Jacksonville in 1975. No, Greensboro, sorry. Greensboro, North Carolina on the 29th of July.
Oh, this one right here?
Yeah.
You know your children well.
Yeah. Absolutely buried or absolutely burned into the brain. Absolutely every one of them. I can tell by perspective. I can tell by whether they're black and white or color.
It's sort of
things to let me know.
It's sort of like, I'll share this experience. When I buy my vinyl records, even if they're years ago, I remember who I bought them from, where I was, where I got it, and then usually how much it was. It's like your children. You talked about getting into shows, so let me share this. I talked about this a while ago, and it, so I'm in Chicago in Voodoo Lounge Tour. I was there for business, and I just didn't know, but all of a sudden I hear the Stones are opening that night. I'm there, and I couldn't wait to get out of that business meeting. I'm tapping my hand. I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here, man.
Yeah.
So I go downtown at Soldier Field, and I don't have a ticket, but I know what to do. So I'm just going around. You go there early, you get the flavor, you get the feeling, you hear the music, you see the rock and rollers just partying and hanging out, and that's part of the fun. And I'm sort of asking around for tickets, and I didn't see many, but Soldier Field's huge. So I got the price here, I got the price there. I said, okay, I know I'm getting in. I definitely know it. So, like you said, I went to the window. Hey, are you releasing any? And I didn't get any hits there. So I was right by the security guard, just going in by one of the tunnels, the entrances. And just as I turned my shoulder, as I was just looking, I saw a TV crew walking in. And I just spun around and went in the end of their line, like I owned the joint, and I walk right in. So
I walked in. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You walked in what?
I walked in backwards into gigs and got away with it.
that's
Twice.
technique too. Yeah, we know them all. So I walk in, and so now I'm saying, well, I better find a ticket stub in case I get grabbed. So I'm looking on the floor. Now, mind you, I'm in Chicago. They love their beer. And I go by the food concession stands. I'm looking on the floor. I find stub here. I find a stub there. They're putting their hands in their pockets, pulling things out. I find $20 here. I find $20 there. Before you know it, I got like $80 free. I said, this is cool. Then I said, well, now we got to find a seat. So the good old days. The good old days, you could buy the cheapest seat and you could get down, because in the front pit it was a free for all. You were standing.
Yeah.
You weren't sitting down. You could, as long as you got in that front pit, it was cool. You were golden. You were in. You had to beat the security guards to get through. You had to figure it out. But anyway, so the point is, this is 90, whatever. What year was it? 97 or something. Oh, in fact, here.
On TV Lounge.
Do you see my
94, yeah.
the Bridges? This is the Bridges shirt.
97. Okay, it'd be 98.
Yeah,
97 here.
Yeah. So what do I do? I'm looking, and I wind up getting first row by the B stage.
Wow.
I had my hat on, my Stones hat that I bought for free. I had my Stones shirt, and I got to see Mick first row. So I just had to share that. I think that's pretty fun. The only bad thing is I had to share it with myself. I didn't have anybody. I smoked. Well, yeah. I was feeling good, and that was the first time I heard Out of Control live, and that was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I love that one. I love that one. Oh. It's an interesting capture because of the strobes.
Yeah. So
I've got a couple of those 1998 section of the book there that capture Out of Control. Did you see Out of Control in the Cage in '99?
No, I didn't see. No, that might have been the last time I saw the Stones. I haven't seen them since. All right, you point that out when I go through the book more. I'm just going through your 75. There's that picture that's really cool. That's the Gator Bowl, I guess, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. All right. So you're just I threw you off target, maybe. All right. So you're traveling.
Okay. Then pick up. I was traveling around a lot, and got to know people here and there. Became friends, acquaintances, different things throughout the country. I went to music festivals a lot in the 60s and 70s.
Now you
One of the pair of big ones that I went to in 1969 were Woodstock and Altamont. Woodstock was amazing. I mean, you were talking about picking up money from the floor in Chicago. Geez, you should have been there after everybody left from Woodstock. Christ, the stuff you found. I'm not even going to get into quantities. Let's just say there was enough stuff that it was more than worth it to help clean up the garbage there.
I visually see it because I know that trick. Stay late after the show ends. The things you find. But I can't imagine Woodstock. That's
yes,
probably
it was
the peak.
quite the scene. 3 days worth for most everybody. I was there for 9. I went up early and dug trenches, helped the guys out doing stuff, and stayed extra on the cleanup crew, and then about a day's worth for just cooling out, unwinding before heading back to the city. So it was about 4 months later that I found myself going directly from Madison Square Garden to Altamont. Hitchhiked across the USA, barely made it on time. I think I was damn near the last one in. I might have got there the same time as Bill Wyman in his helicopter. But I tell you, that was a very different crowd, very different night, very weird night. I'm surprised it shouldn't have been out that way for what went down. But it was a mess that was a different kind of mess than Woodstock left behind. That's for certain. I believe that if I would have had a camera that night, it may have become problematic. But the way I look at it in its actuality, I wasn't even close enough to get anything decent, so I don't know if I would have tried with even high-end professional gear. I didn't start shooting until 6 years after that in 1975. Saw him in 72. Had a really fun time at Winterland. But that, I guess, is among the regrets, is that I didn't shoot earlier than 75. I wish I would have shot him with Brian Jones. Shot him in 69, wherever, Madison Square or Altamont. 72 had some interesting stage stuff. I had a balcony seat.
Monterey too, right?
No, I
He
didn't
didn't
go to Monterey.
perform. He hung out.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Those would have been from 66, but they didn't happen. So I started out in 1975, and what I learned in the midst of 1975, camera-wise and gig-wise, was that, it wasn't hard to get up close, or as close as you could be with 18-foot cyclone fences and the like. Learned that people liked the pictures that I was taking, and began to develop a habit. I would go to a show, and as soon as possible, I would process the film, which would allow me to make prints as soon as possible. Quite often, I'd have my own darkroom with me in a backpack. If that wasn't the case, then I would use a rental darkroom in major cities and produce enough of those places that didn't have them. And as I would go, I would spend time outside while people were going in selling pictures. And then I spent some time after the gig was over selling them, which was what allowed me to go from place to place, get film, get bus fare. But if bus fare wasn't available, I didn't have an issue with hitchhiking, as long as the distance didn't exceed the clock time remaining to the next gig. 78 was interesting. It was a big mixture of trains, planes, buses, all kinds of people, all kinds of places. It was a whole lot of fun. I think the 1978 tour in general overall was the most fun when it comes down to it. They put on quite a rockin' set. That's not to say that it's my favorite. It was just different than the other ones in terms of production values. They were doing more new songs than usual. There were a lot of Some Girl songs as opposed to songs from prior tours or prior records, and that was nice.
Yeah,
So
I regretted
to
not
move on,
seeing it.
1981 was kind of crazy for me. I'd rather not get into it, but it's what was the events of 1981 is what made me want to go over and see him in England in 1982, and that's another story about my involvement with this that's in my book.
So that was what, Wembley? You were at 82?
At Leeds.
Oh,
At Leeds,
Leeds.
the one that was shot and is available on DVD and Blu-ray and all
Right,
that.
right. Yeah, I got that.
Sad.
Got that vinyl. Hold that thought here. I want to jump because I'm showing pictures as you're talking. This picture was a Xerox, actually, right?
Yeah, I scanned a Xerox of what was an original print at the time. In other words, I had a print, somebody ran a Xerox of it. That's all that was left because in 1981, all of my Rolling Stones film was stolen. It took quite a while and a bit of investigative work to come up with the individual. And even though I was able to recoup 90% of the film stock, the 10% that was kept was one of the pictures that was in the batch that didn't get returned. Cameras, cash, this and that all disappeared in the midst of a crazy event in St. Louis in 1981.
Wow, that's we'll hold off on that. That's probably a sentimental story for you. So I wanted to get up to the Leeds, and I think we're still in 78
Yes,
here.
78.
Yeah, you were at the Memphis show, right? In 78.
On 75.
Oh, 75 Memphis. Was that the one that they had the circus theme?
Yes. I was particularly interested in seeing him on the elephants. That's one of the reasons I went the extra leg to Memphis, for Pete's sake. The elephants didn't show up. From what I understand, the stage couldn't support the weight of the elephants, so they had to forget about the elephants.
I talked about that in the documentary. I think a lot of people didn't know about that. And I think that was Rudge who tried to pull that, or Mick. I don't remember.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting one. I was hoping for it to happen, but it didn't.
That's hilarious.
I'd heard about it.
I'm going backward.
I think I heard about it from a fellow by the name of Tom Beach at the show in D.C.
Okay.
In 1975. That would have been another. I see we're at St. Louis now.
This is St. Louis 78 still.
Yeah, we're kind of going backwards from 1982.
Am I catching up? I think I'm going forward. Or am I going?
No, you're going the opposite direction, not catching up.
No, frig. Let me click.
There we go.
Let me click here. We got 78. We got 70. No, this is 75. I'm going the right way.
Yeah.
All right. So let me. Sorry, guys. I'm scrolling through here. I hope you guys are appreciating some of these photos that I'm showing from this book. And like I say, this book just to own. I'm hearing some feedback. Do you have something on? Is there something on?
Nope.
Bear with me. Technical. It's a delay somewhere. It wasn't happening before. Maybe it's this? No. Hello. All right. Let me. I'm going to look at the comments. I want to see if people are hearing a repeat. No, it's delayed. It's too delayed. I'm hearing my repeat vocals. Do you have two computers on?
No, and I've actually got my mic on a different angle and blocked off from the audio output of the speaker.
Strange.
A buzz.
Yeah, echo in speech. Somebody had mentioned. Thanks.
Okay, how's that now?
1, 2, 3. Echo.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Dave. Dave, you're muted. Damn. I don't know what it is. It didn't happen before, and I don't know why. Let me close some screens out. Sorry, folks. I don't like this. What? No. My wife was trying to help me. All right. Hello. Check. I think there's something going on your side. I muted your mic. I muted your mic.
Me?
Yeah, and I don't hear the echo.
Okay, well, I've got an external mic running.
Yeah. Check. Hello. Check. Damn. Okay. Folks, I trying to figure out what I could do here. All right. Let me go through here. Let me catch up with the leads. All right. We're at New Barbarians.
Yeah, that's 79.
Yeah, this is 79. So this is Oshawa's show?
No, that one that you've got on the screen right now is San Diego. There was no shooting the Oshawa show. It was about walking in backwards on the encore.
Yeah.
Didn't have a camera with me at the time.
So they use 3 mics here, which is interesting. I wonder what the middle mic was for. Just a backup.
I know that Ronnie would do one and Keith would do the other when they sang together. I don't think anybody else stood up and sang with them.
Yeah. Well, this was my first exposure to the Stones. Here's my original shirt.
Aha. Hey, yours is in good shape. I've got one of those as well.
You got it.
Yeah, I collect all the stuff that's out there too. T-shirts, books, records, DVDs, video, buttons, posters, all sorts of stuff.
I'd love to see it. I know the fellow Matt Lee does that.
Yeah, he's got quite a collection, I understand.
Yeah. So let me bounce through here again. So in your book, you have different. Talk about this chapter thing.
Okay, the book is divided up into 5 different sections. One section for each decade: the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, the 2000s, and the 2010s. So part 2 would be about the 1980s, in which there would have been Tattoo You, 1982, a couple of Mick Taylor, and then the Steel Wheels Tour in 1989.
These little write-ups are stories. Can't hear you. Can't hear me. Can't hear me?
Can you hear me?
Now I got you.
Oh, my mic was down.
Mic was down.
All right.
All right.
So these little
So these
stories.
little stories.
This is an
This
example.
is an example.
Yeah, I have one story per decade. Otherwise, the book would have been very large. Probably would have run more towards 700 or 800 pages. It would have been a lot more text if I'd have written a story for each gig, and it probably would have taken me another 5-6 years to write it.
And you had to keep all the shots vertical.
Vertical.
Well, that was a choice based on the format and the offering of various formats through the online print-on-demand functions like Ingram or Amazon or BookBaby or Lulu. You send what you end up doing is you send them a file. So after many years of taking the pictures and having the film, it took me 3.5 years to scan the film. Then after that, each of the files had to be treated with, taken anywhere from 15 minutes to upwards of 80 hours for one image to be processed. I don't know if you've ever scanned very much film, but if you've got any film that's been handled to any degree, a scanner sees every bit of imperfection. Hairline scratches that you would never see, not on the emulsion side of the film, but on the base side of the film. You know, the emulsion is adhered to when the film is manufactured. Those can show up as a 2-pixel wide line running through the entire image. So I had to do a lot of process time correcting those sorts of deficiencies across the older film. The newer ones didn't have that much in the way of problems to them. But it took a long time. And then between 2010 and 2017, I got to a few more gigs, one in China, one in Mexico, one in Paris, a couple in the US. And I figured, well, I ought to do something with these. As people had said throughout time that I should do a book. Now, the idea of producing a book had been with me ever since summer of 1975. And, well, even the name of the book has been with me since then.
What does the title mean?
There was all of this thought about how to go about making a book. And what I ended up doing was selecting the photographs that I had that were of a vertical orientation. When they were taken, they were vertical. So there was a set of about 800 shots that my wife and I ran through and looked at, spent a lot of time choosing which ones they'd be. And those selections and edits are what the book became. After the selections were made, they had to be, these start off as TIFF files. They were then produced or saved as PDF files, which were then put together in one continuous PDF, resulting in a file size of about, I think it was about 2.25 gigabyte, which is then uploaded to the people who print it at Amazon or BookBaby or Ingram or the other kinds of places. So film became TIFF files, which became PDF files, which became print-ready files to have the book printed. And what you're looking at there is the end result.
Interesting.
End result of about, a massive amount of process time. I'd have to say probably several thousand hours worth of process time to arrive at what now exists in a printed form.
This is Leeds then.
Leeds, yes. England. Very first time I saw them outside the United States. To me, it was seeing them on their home turf. It was a really great show. Uh, I heard songs that I wanted to hear. Had a good day. Spent about 11 days in England. Made it back home to Alaska by the skin of my teeth, and carried on from there. They didn't come back around for another 7 years. That would have been 1989. I went to the first couple of them there in Philadelphia, and a number of them between then and the end of the tour. 1989 was the first time and only time that I'd had a press pass. I haven't got a whole lot to say about that one either. I had a good night. It was brief, and it was in the brevity that I didn't find favor. 2 songs and you're out, as it goes.
Oh yeah. What do you think of people today with the cell phones up in the air? Does that bother you, annoy you?
Well, I don't pay much mind. I don't think much of it, but the thing is in my mind, if you're allowed to bring a telephone capable of taking an image, why can't you bring a 35? Why can't you bring a proper professional kit with you? Why do you have to settle for something that's going to yield an image quality like a cell phone does?
Yeah.
I mean, even iPhones, even if you've got a good, crisp, well-lit shot, what size is it going to be? How are you going to, what size does it print out at? Not very much. I think they're doing pretty good at maybe 8x10 these days. I can take the ones I got from film and enlarge them up to 2 feet by 3 feet.
Yeah.
I've got one. I don't necessarily want to take it off the wall, but it's a 22 by 28 inch serigraph in the blue tone of one of the shots of Keith from 1978 in Boulder. And it looks just like one of my 11 by 14 prints. Well, how nice of you.
Wow.
This.
Marta. Sweet.
Thank you, dear. So
That's great.
I know his complexions and all, but Keith got one of these in 1989 when I happened to be up in Canada at Vancouver at the BC Place. I made 50 of those. Keith got the first one.
So here's
I was told to go up to the hotel and ask for a fellow by the name of Ziggenpuss.
those names.
Yes, indeed. They change all the time, too.
I mentioned those in the documentaries because I think it's hilarious. They come up.
Oh, yeah, they have to be creative, you know.
So this is your set list here. You saw at Leeds, which probably is the same that they did throughout.
Well, I tell you, it was a really cool bit to see and hear Hang Fire. I think that was my favorite. I like Neighbors, Black Limousine, and what have you. That's the ones I'd favor in this batch. Of course, I like Shattered, 20 Flight Rock, and what have you. Oh, how do we go? You know, they do really good music. They do really good songs, really good performances. And most of the time, especially these days, it's quite an interesting spectacle. It's like one of those Russian dolls, you know, where you've got a doll within a doll within a doll. You've got the overall spectacle of the stadium or the field. Then you've got the stage with the band on it. Then you've got the music that's coming out. Then you've got what the songs are. Then you've got the individuals, you know. So there's like dolls within dolls within dolls in a way, or different orbits of things going on within this space that actually produces an interesting energy feedback, if you will. I go to a Rolling Stones show. It doesn't get me exhausted. It doesn't play me out. It's the other end. It wakes me up.
That's a shot in the arm. Angie was different. They didn't do that in '81. at least most of the shows. Anyway. So
Fanfare in their native land. That was a nice one.
So this is the leads. Yeah, that's what I would like to experience. You had a shot earlier in it. I'm minimizing my talk here because I don't want the echo. So you had a shot. I don't think I'm going to find it. Ronnie playing slide. And I noticed he put the slide on his middle finger.
That would have been from 1975.
Yeah. And that was
although in later years, I could show you one. If I could share a screen, I could show you one from Seattle where he's using a Golden Bottleneck playing a song.
You have a picture of that one?
I do. I would have to.
So it's a color picture?
Yeah, it's a color shot. I don't know how to share it. I don't know if I've got it online. It's a good possibility not. Or where it would be exactly in order to be able to do this at all efficiently. Let me see.
As you talk, I'm going through steel wheels.
19. Okay, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot you a link.
Oh, okay. And folks who are watching, I'm not looking at comments. I'll be looking later for questions and answers, and then also for a giveaway.
Okay, there you've got it. The shot of Ronnie with a Golden Bottleneck.
Is it this one?
Yeah, there's another one from 02.
Oh, got it. With the acoustic, the J200. This might have been for you got the silver maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful guitar. Why I bought one? I don't have the double pick guard. Let me show you one of my guitars. Hold one sec. I'm proud of this one. And do you remember? I think it was on Bleecker Street in New York City. Matt Humanoff Guitars. They went out of business. So I went in and I said, I want to sound like Keith. And they sold me this.
Wow.
This is the Fender Deluxe. This is the double humbucker. This is from 75.
Yeah, I recognize that style of guitar.
It doesn't have a single coil like the other ones did. But anyway, yeah, this thing plays like a Jaguar. It's I get goosebumps just holding it.
You guys that can play, a lot of respect for you. Back when I was a teenager, I managed to memorize 126 chords, but couldn't for the life of me go from one to another.
That's the trick. Well, it's not until you get learning open tuning is when you start to learn. Yeah. So this shot you got here is a sequence to that one.
Yes. There were about 6 or 7 in that little row there. That was a pretty interesting thing that went down there. That's another one that was a no-cost entry. I was outside of RFK Stadium selling 16 by 20 prints or trying to exchange one for a ticket when I ran into a fella. He had a bunch of tickets in his hat band. And I said, well, what do you want for one of those? And I said, I got these and some cash. Well, he wasn't interested. He just asked me if I was ready to go. I said, sure. Well, we walked into RFK Stadium, somewhere in the back recess of the place, walked down a hall that had nobody in it but one security guard, waved us through when the guy said that I was his assistant. The guy stuck me in the 6th row, Keith's side, at RFK Stadium in '89. And can you imagine how a person would feel if they're in the 6th row, no ticket, no armband, among those who had probably paid through the nose to be there?
Mm-hmm.
At any rate, one of the photographs from that night wound up in Bill's book. And I'd really like to be able to track the guy down and let me in and say thank you. It was this one that ended up in Bill's book.
Oh, wow. That's gorgeous. Speaking of Bill.
Yeah, now we've moved on. We're looking at Bill from somewhere like Alpine Valley along the way on that tour.
Now, let me ask you this question, and it's a touchy question. And I'm not going to put down Daryl Jones, but I really think that the loss of Bill hurt the rhythm a lot.
Hmm.
Well, you don't have to say anything now.
What shall we say? Wyman's a good player. I don't know why he decided to pack it in after 30, but it was his decision. And evidently the band was comfortable with it, and they were able to move on from the fact of his departure. I think Daryl is quite an interesting player. It does have a different feel to it, but I appreciate Daryl for the fact that he's lit up that side of the stage. It's entirely different what goes on with Daryl as to what goes on with Bill. Bill and Mick Taylor, to me, were fellas off in the dark side of the stage most of the time. Not saying musically, but visually. And my focus is primarily visual, not auditory. And I'm not saying anything to diss either of them. They're both great players, and they both serve their band well.
I would agree. Serve them well.
I mean, what were they supposed to do when Bill left? Pack it in?
No, not at all. No. Keith, if he left, that was it. Stones are over. Mick. But when I listen technically, I hear a difference.
Yes, there is a difference.
Yeah, it depends. Everyone's going to have different opinions. I don't think there's right or wrong. It's just I hear.
As players, they're both coming from different patches,
Yeah. Okay, so we got part 3 here. We talk about how many miles you traveled. Concerts.
Yes, each section has a notation for the number of miles that were traveled throughout the particular decade. Section 3 is the 1990s. That would entail opening up on Keith in 93, the Expensive Winos up in Seattle, Washington at the Paramount Theater. And then we'll go to Buddha Lounge, Charlie Watts down there at the place in San Francisco.
So you saw him solo, and you talked
solo.
about your experience.
Yes, that's another story. Is the Charlie Watts gig in San Francisco in 1996. That's the story for these 90s. And these ones will be expensive winos. And here we move to Voodoo Lounge over in Basel, Switzerland.
Mm. So here's my story for Voodoo. I worked in Secaucus, New Jersey, 2 minutes from Giants Stadium.
Wow.
I would watch the New York Giants practice during my lunch hour. I sort of would walk in like I own the joint. Nobody ever stopped me. In fact, I met Bon Jovi at a practice. And so Stones come in, Voodoo Lounge. Let me go there and see. Maybe they're warming up. And I go down through the tunnels. I walk, not a sound, not a peep. I get to the backstage. Nobody around. And I'm in the lounge.
Huh.
Everything is red. Drapes hanging over lamps, pool tables, bars, just like you would imagine. I didn't touch a thing. I just walked, praying I won't get caught. But it was just my own experience, and it was just amazing just to be there and see that. But anyway, that's my Voodoo Lounge story. Of course, I saw it live that night. Out of Tears blew me away, that song.
Nice song that is.
This is a wonderful shot.
Thank you.
The kick. My wife imitates him. I love it when she does.
Yeah, that's a little movie he's been doing for quite a while.
There's a boy. Here's Charlie in your gig.
Yeah, that one was at the Fillmore in San Francisco. Interesting day that started in one fashion and ended in another.
Now, this is one shot I think Keith probably would want.
This is one from the Rose Garden in Portland, Oregon, at the start of 1998, January 30th or 31st it was. Seats were behind the stage. There's another one from the same position that night. Not a whole lot you can do from the back, but I guess I got a few.
Those are great.
Yeah,
This is the next night where we're on the opposite end of the field. Same basic posture in the rafters. Slightly different angle, but this would be from stage left all the way opposite from the top of the place at the Rose Garden.
What is beautiful about this is the unique shots, the different angles. It's something that not many photographers will show. They'll just show, their front shots. There you go. Boom. This just captures some kind of feeling for me. And I'm looking right here, and I think this is a Vox amp.
Yep.
I don't see any Mesa boogies. I think this is a Fender amp. Anyway, but you staged the shot really perfect.
Oh no, they did.
They did. Well, they staged it.
Okay, so now we've moved on to Wurzer. And I like this one, in fact, this particular shot from Sympathy.
Did you see the exhibition?
Yes.
Nice, huh?
Nice, huh?
Indeed. Yeah, I took pictures of that like crazy. Saw it in Vegas.
It was incredible. The Edith Grove thing was chilling. It was so realistic. It was
It was
frightening. It was
for every
scary.
girl out there.
Yeah,
That is the scariest thing, that room.
yeah. It was
And
bad.
they have Mick
We have
and Keith talking about it in an
it
interview about that Edith Grove on YouTube. If you look it up, it's real fun to hear. But
It was one of those places where I got to see the front of the building when I went over to England in '82.
oh, you did see it.
Yeah, I went to go see it, and Palace Square and Carnaby Street, and where the Beatles started out at the Little Club in Liverpool.
Cavern, right?
Yes. Now we're moving through different places here. These may be, I believe, from Hanover.
How are you doing with the cigarette break?
In June of 1998. No, I'm good.
You're good.
Yeah, we're an hour and a half in.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna move a little quicker. And I love this shot. How is this? This is lighting to the stage.
Yeah, everything I shoot is existing light. I don't use any flash or anything like that. Boy, I'd get bounced out in a second for that.
Yeah.
Plus, it's additional gear to drag in, and it's a bit more noticeable. And usually the distances wouldn't permit for proper use of a flash unit anyway. Even a really good sun pack unit that'll give you some kind of an exposure at 60 feet isn't going to work in these settings. And you've got stages that are 300 feet wide and 80 feet deep. What good is it going to do when you're shooting from beyond the fenced off area in front of the stage, which is another 10 feet? If you 10, 20 heads back, now you're adding more distance, right?
Yeah. I'm just feeling these pictures. I just love looking at these. It's sort of like a record album, you know, when you listen to it, you can look at it 1,000 times and keep looking at it and find something different. I'm blowing smoke up your ass, but it's the truth.
Thank you. Okay, some of these shots were taken when you remember during Bridges, there was that stage that came out on a rail from the main stage. And a number of these were taken, not that one, but that prior one of Ronnie and the ones of Keith and Ronnie, like that precede, let's see, a few more back. They were taken as the stage rolled by. Oh, these look from Austria.
Oh, I'm just going back.
Where I was at quite a distance. That one. That's one of the ones where the stage was floating by. And I was in the pit, but there was less distance between me and them when the stage rolled by than when they were on the stage. So this would have been their lighting on the stage on those shots.
Excellent.
A nice overhead umbrella did some decent distribution of light on those.
Yeah.
That'll be moving out of control.
Control this, yeah. This right here.
Yeah.
Is this shot with? This is not digital yet, right? This is just regular.
No, that's just film.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like film.
And that looks like 1999, Sacramento.
I'm only at 183, folks. And I'm not going to bounce. I'm going to go a little quicker.
Oh, now we've reached the 2000s, in which there would have been Licks and Bigger Bang. I think I had one Mick Taylor there from a gig in 2001 at a tiny little club here where I live. Kind of place that there's only like 800 people or something. And I don't know, the lighting was bizarre.
It works. I saw
Lighting was red and like insubstantial. I was standing right in front of the stage, and that's the best exposure that could be had for it.
Mm. I caught Mick at the Lone Star in New York City.
Ah,
Probably
Lone Star. That's a familiar place to me. People played there back in the 70s.
Mm.
And this is the one from, these are from Tacoma in 02.
So this is Keith's. Is this this isn't Tumbling Dice guitar. I'm not sure. This, well, he's got the capo up here. It must be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe Midnight Rambler. No, I don't know. Anyway,
I'd have to look at a Lick's video to see where they are in the progress.
Yeah.
And there you'll see the on Ronnie's middle finger.
there it is.
On
Yeah.
that one. The
So these-
bottleneck.
These they have a lot of pride in their straps. They have them all customized, one of a kind.
Yeah, he's got quite a collection of guitars.
Now the strap,
Oh, those two.
yes.
Yeah, the Lick's one, the Bridges one. The recent ones are interesting too.
There's the pirate. I just hope the folks are enjoying this. I'm not looking. I don't even know how many people we have in here. So when I first go to shows, always looked at this set list to see what I was going to hear. I always scoped in on that.
This is one of the ones from Calgary. This one too. One of Charlie. And that one.
Okay.
That was the night I was on my way to being on my ass outside, but they didn't win. I did. This one is from Seattle. And then we move on to over there in Norway.
This is Norway. So this is Bremen.
Yeah, this would be Bigger Bang.
Beautiful place. Norway.
Bergen, Norway.
Yeah.
Interesting little place.
I was there, yeah. So there's the list. Always look here. You see, what are we in for?
And after Bergen, there was Horsens. Horsens, Denmark. Boy, was that ever a strange place to get to on the train. Got on the train, I thought everything was good. I got a ticket. I figure I got a seat. I sit down in the seat, and then along come a whole bunch of people. It turns out that their seats were reserved. They had reserved their seats in advance, and there were no seats left. I couldn't figure out. I got a ticket, but I don't get a seat. Well, I'll tell you what I did for the little ride rather than doing what I thought I would be. I thought I'd take a little nap, you know, in a chair and a seat. I had to take a nap on the floor, and gee, the ones who had reserved seats didn't like that either. Oh well, I got to the place and got back from there, so that worked out all right.
So what about this here? China. Tell us about Macau, China.
All right, then. There was a place called the Venetian Casino in a little arena called Cotai Arena. What can I say? I had wanted to see the Rolling Stones in China ever since I first heard it rumored in 1979. They were supposedly going to go there in 80. Whatever it is, it didn't happen. They didn't go, neither did I. But 35 years after that,
I can tell you what happened. Hold your thought there. Mick wanted China. He went to the ambassador in D.C. to talk him into it. He had to get some documentation to get to the China government themselves. He went to Chet Flippo. Ask him to write a story about the Stones and why they're so important to the world. He wrote it. He gave it to Mick. Mick went to the ambassador. Next thing you know, the ambassador said they don't want anything to do with you.
I had a friend at the time who could have set me on the track of being there then. I tell you, it was a lot easier in 2014. Heard about the 14 on Fire tour shortly after the 50 and Counting tour. So I figured, okay, take a look at the dates, which one would be the most interesting, and that was it. So I decided to go to Macau. Pretty long journey at that. It was one of the most interesting ones I'd shot, and I'll tell you why. Everywhere I'd gone, there'd been all of this apparent tension over the use of a camera. There was none of that at the gig in China. None of that. It was strange to feel somehow freer over there in China than it was in the United States at the time. That was also the night that I shook hands with Darryl Jones. I met a couple of interesting people from other countries who are still friends. The venue was in a building that's the largest air-conditioned structure on the planet. Huge place. One of the cleanest cities I'd ever seen, especially of late. I didn't see anybody who looked discontented. I saw people going about their business. It was interesting that the school children had a digital pass that they just waved at a little box to get on the bus. I didn't see anything like that over here either, but I guess that's where they spend their money over there. Interesting place. The oddest thing of the night was after the gig was over in Macau, I went outside to hail a cab, or actually get in the line to hail a cab. Took about an hour to get through. There was a guy, the only guy that I saw that was having a problem in the place. He was a gambler and he was trying to get whatever he could for his stakes to go back inside. And he was asking everybody in the line. Bizarre. Then there was this guy, must have been from New Zealand, I guess. He had tattoos and a bald head and all kinds of other stuff, crazy stuff going on. And in the course of the gig, at some point, here he comes flying through the air. I can't imagine for what, but he came down right alongside of me. Turned out he was catching Ron Wood's pick. Crazy.
For a pick.
For a pick.
As you see here, I'm on Google Maps and I'm at the Katai Arena, which this is what it looks like. So, folks, oh, this is the Venetian. This is China. This
Quite a
is
huge
China.
casino floor.
That's not Vegas. This is China. Let me get back out here.
I think they think of it as the gambling capital of the East.
Yeah, pretty westernized there, like you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah, this is anyway. It's pretty amazing. Okay, so Macau, right?
Yep.
Is that the farthest place you've been?
Yeah, I think that would have been the longest journey.
And the photos there would be here. Now we're
that's
sort
50
of
counting from the Oracle in Oakland.
again.
And
You're
there's a
higher
few of
up.
them before we get to the ones from 2014.
You're higher up here again, which is great. Still,
Yep.
look at Keith's boot with the Stones tongue on it. The Stones tongue.
Yep,
I love
that
it.
seat was up in the rafters on the side of the stage. Boy, you wouldn't believe the distance.
You can see how frail he is, huh?
I guess, yeah, pretty slight.
He said, "Here, anybody want to pick?" And Mick came to China.
Yeah, Mick Taylor and Mick Jagger jamming down on Midnight Rambler, it would have been. And here we've arrived at Macau.
Wonderful shots.
These are shots from the pit, Ronnie's side. And I continued in the pit throughout that, through the rest of that decade.
Oh, the guitars. Look at them. Great colors here. I love the background, the digital image behind it.
Yeah, as far as stagecraft, they have improved with each time around. As far as lighting goes, as far as sound goes, as far as activities and antics on the stage, really well done every time around. And in my estimation, they improve each time around.
Mm-hmm. So let's get this one answer out. Your favorite Stones album? I know the answer. You tell them, people.
Oh, that would be a hard one. I think I'd have to say the next one.
Right.
Fact is, I like them all.
Yeah.
I listen to them randomly. Sometimes I'll sit down and listen to them from beginning to end in a row. Particularly if I'm off by myself on the road, yeah, I'll bring a bunch of CDs with me, and just that's what I'll be listening to. Great way to wake up in the morning, middle of the night, afternoon after you've been awake too long. They're good wake up bunch.
People ask me, their favorite albums. I just say it depends what mood you're in. I could listen to Dirty Work. I could listen to Undercover. I could listen to Exile. I mean, I used to play a lot of basketball. I would go start at 7 in the morning at Sundays, and I would have Happy blaring out the car window to get me psyched.
And then we're moving through 2016 into 2017.
Well,
these are shots from Paris, and these are what close out the photographic portion of the book.
Ronnie's Firebird. And here you can see here, this says Sally. His strap.
And then there's the one with the tigers on it.
Yeah. This is one of his drawings, I think.
Yes.
There's colorful salamanders. And he's playing this Sunburst Les Paul, which I don't see him play much.
Oh, you do seem to know your guitars.
All right, folks, we're coming towards an end here. We got a big index that connects you to the books, pictures, and we're getting towards the end here. Get ready for question 30. Anything else to say about the book, Curt?
Simply that it's available at a number of places online. You can find it at Barnes & Noble. You can find it at Amazon. You can find it at a place called Book Baby. Book Baby's got the version that I appreciate the most. That'll be the hardcover with the dust jacket. They also did a better printing job.
You mentioned, I heard you talk about martial chess. What is that story?
Well, back in the summer of '75, I guess I got kind of nervy, and I went up to Rolling Stone Records to kick around the idea of doing a book of photographs of the tour. Well, I didn't know they already had one in progress with Christopher Sykes and Andy Leibovitz. I was supposed to meet this fellow called Marshall Chess. About 13 different times he didn't show up. I'd be there, he wouldn't. And each time he didn't show up, it just gave me more opportunity to go and get more photographs. But the upshot of it was that I never met him, but I met other people in the office who, in future time, gave me interesting bits of information.
Rolling Stones records.
Yep, it was basically it was a step along the path of just getting to know a lot of people in orbits other than immediate band.
So you
meeting other people around them in their orbit. Oh my, who did I say? Like James Carnbach, like Rita, like Shelley Lazar. All these people, I met them as a result of meeting other people along the way. Kind of one would hand me off to the other.
Serendipitous.
Or provide a proper introduction.
You just let your life flow, and it came to you. You just followed it. You know.
Well, the book is a culmination of my 3 sets of basic interests in life: music, travel, and photography. And the book is what says what I've been doing for that time.
Great documentary. Again, folks, I just look up. Okay. Look it up. All right, so let's go to questions and answers. I'm going to look at my computer, and I'm going to rattle off what I can. I don't know who's on anymore. It could be you and I talking. I don't know. Questions, folks. What were the 1 or 2 shots that you could kick yourself for missing that you wish life had rewind button for? So if you saw something and you said, shit, you missed. Yep.
Did you hear the question, honey?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah, that's your question.
That's my question. I would have to single out, let's say the one of Mick and Lisa from 1995. That one shot of Mick from 1975. And one of Keith from 1978.
And is there something that you saw that you wish you sort of like, my camera's not ready?
Well, there have been a lot of them where I caught exactly what I wanted to, or I got what I wanted to, in a way. I can't say that for every frame of film that was exposed, but there have been numerous ones that I aimed for and got.
What about the ones you didn't get? Ones you did not get that you regret not getting?
Oh, my. I guess regret not getting would be numerous duets that Mick has done with people.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many people we had. There's not many left right now. So let's give away a book. Because there's not many people, we're going to put out a question here. You go to it, Curt. And the person that will answer first that I see, you will contact, you'll get in touch with Curt. It's your responsibility, and you will identify yourself and take it from there. But I think, I don't know about shipping, Curt. That's up to you.
Okay, then. For favorite costuming, I'd go for 75.
75 what?
75 what?
Somebody asked favorite band costuming for a tour. That'd be from 1975.
Oh, okay. I didn't see
Okay,
that question.
I didn't see that question.
75.
What about
75.
to give away the book?
What's the best Mick? From a Russell Brooks.
I'm not sure.
Gee
Russell.
whiz. Any of the sympathy shots are what I would favor.
So, Kurt, you
Hello,
want to
Van.
you want to ask your question? Let's find somebody.
Find somebody.
Ask my question.
To give away the book.
Okay, go ahead. Which place was most distant from where I live that I saw a show at?
So you saw the stone somewhere. What was the farthest place?
Yes, that'd be my question.
Okay, Jello Biafra got China. Is that good
Well, it
enough
looks like
for you?
Jello Biafra gets a copy.
The shipping's on us.
Jello Biafra's going to have to get a hold of me then,
Free shipping.
and we'll ship it out to you.
Leeds was China was farther than Leeds.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
When I saw him in Leeds, I only had to fly from Anchorage. Over the poles, it was shorter. Macau was a 13-hour flight. I think that Leeds wasn't any more than about 7 or 8. About 9 hours to Scandinavia. So Macau was the furthest out. The closest was right down the block.
So I will IM you where I think I know where Jello Biafra lives. At least so you. I'll tell you his first name in the chat. Well, you know what, Dave, you come on. You type in the chat your information. You know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, folks. I hope we got something. There's not many folks left right now. Kurt,
I appreciate everybody showing up. Steve, thanks a lot for having me on. And I do hope people like this particular production.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank
it's
you.
a pleasure, Marta. Just hold on. I'm going to end the broadcast. Let's just stay on for a second. Take care, folks. We'll see you soon, and I will be posting some videos on some vinyl finds and talk about my other documentaries. Bye-bye.